Thanks so much for taking the time to join us today. Just going to give everyone a couple minutes to get onto the webinar here. So we have Alec and Neil of Genwise. They are accounting automation experts, so they're going to be sharing their tips for preparing for 2024. In the meantime, while we wait for folks to join, if you all want to let us know where you are calling in from. I'm based just outside Toronto. It is a very cold and gray winter day here. Alec and Neil, do you want to tell us where, sorry, Alec and Zach, do you want to tell us where you're joining in from?
I'm joining in from Dripping Springs, Texas. It's 30 minutes outside of Austin.
And I am also based in Austin, but I am calling in from Portugal today. So you'll have to excuse me if my internet gets a little bit choppy. And I was hoping to have a cool background, but unfortunately it's already nighttime here.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, we've got people coming in from all over. So just as we wait for people to come in here, we'd love to know, what is the most important business challenge you're looking to solve in this new year? Are you looking to run a more efficient firm, grow your business, become more profitable, or improve your cash flow and reduce AR? So let us know what is on the top of your list going into 2024. All right, great. While we answer that poll, I'm just going to quickly introduce myself. My name is Annie. We have lots to get through, so I'll make this quick. I'm the marketing manager for Ignition here in North America. I do have the privilege of leading lots of events and webinars just like this, so we get to work with great app partners, other industry thought leaders, and customers as well. So I'm really happy to have the team from Genwise on here today. They are absolute experts in this. And so just really quickly, if anyone is not familiar with Ignition, we are software for accountants and bookkeepers primarily. We were founded about 10 years ago by an accountant from Sydney, Australia, and he was fed up with all of the manual processes. He knew that there was a better way to engage clients, manage payments, and so Ignition was born. Our platform automates proposals, billing, payment collection, and we integrate with a lot of other apps in your workflow, such as QuickBooks, Xero, and Carbon. And so really at the core of it, we exist for three main reasons. One, to get you paid faster and to eliminate outstanding receivables, to be more profitable and make sure that you're getting paid for your worth, and to reduce mundane admin and make sure that you are operating as efficiently as possible. And Ignition customers, they do save on average 18 or more hours a week. And this means that you've got more time to do what matters, focus on your clients, your family, whatever that is for you. All right, now it is time to hand over to our experts. So we'll start off with Alec and Zach introducing themselves and Genwise. Then they'll go into their approach to a successful year end and what they recommend for your firm. And then at the end, we'll have time for some Q&A. So please be sure to drop your questions into the Q&A throughout. And then after that, there will be a very short demo by an Ignition product expert. So if you're new to Ignition, you're not sure what we do or how we could make a difference in your firm, be sure to stay on for that at the end. And that's it for me. We will record this, so we'll share it out after. If you have to hop off early for any reason, don't worry, we'll send this out in an email afterwards. So I will let Alec and Zach take it away from here. We'll just make sure that I get their screen sharing properly. Just one moment. All right, wonderful. Thanks, gents. Take it from here.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Annie. Appreciate you, and thanks for having us. Real quickly, before we dive in, I'll let Alex say a couple things about Genwise, as he is our faithful CEO. We've been working together for about 4 years. Genwise predates that by a couple years. We've definitely had an interesting path to wind up specifically working and facilitating and helping accountants and the accounting industry. And we definitely didn't start here, but we're happy to be here. Alec, do you want to say a couple words about Genwise before we jump into the nitty gritty here?
Yes, Zach. Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you. A little tidbit on Genwise. We are a automation as a service and operation service for accounting firms. We're based in Austin, Texas. We specialize helping accounting firms typically under 10 million annual revenue. We can help with sales automation, tax prep, bookkeeping, onboarding. So it just really comes down to the firm. Like you as a firm, are you wanting to double in growth or manage what you have? Those are totally different kind of build outs. So we have fully niched down into helping accounting firms over 2 years ago. Before that, we helped launch startups into the market and worked with other professional services to apply automation within their companies. With accounting, it just made a lot of sense to fully transition into that industry 2 years ago because 70% of CPAs are retiring in the next 10 years. Y'all clearly don't have a demand problem, you have a scalability problem. And so there's a lot of changes happening in the accounting industry, and we thought it's prime for us to fully focus on the industry because I know there's a lot of great tech within the accounting space, but a lot of the tech does operationally change how accounting firms conduct work internally and also with their clients and how their clients interface with you. So we know that. And so we take a really more data-driven approach of understanding how your firm operates, the current technology you're on, and also what is the growth trajectory. Then from there, we'll create a firm roadmap to identify what changes should we make first, because ideally we can't do everything all at once. And we have to do a phased approach. So we're definitely here to help y'all, and looking forward to showing y'all some of the capabilities that we can bring to y'all. And
Thanks, Alex.
over to you, Zach.
One of the things that we really like about the accounting industry is that it's very universal. So a lot of the problems that we see with one firm are pretty translative to every firm. And most of the problems that we see are, again, universal. There's very few times that we come across a firm or a new client that says, hey, I've got something, and we're like, wow, we've never heard about that before, which makes it really easy to address problems. However, every firm is different. So while the problems might be the same, no two firms are by any means the same. In fact, every firm seems to be in its own little universe. And you've probably seen that before, especially if you've talked to other CPAs or other people in the accounting industry. They might be doing the same thing ultimately, preparing returns, doing taxes, so on and so forth. But the way they get from point A to point B is probably different than what you're doing. And that's one of the reasons that we love the industry, is because it's standardized enough that we can come in and be really helpful from day one. However, everyone's got their own idiosyncrasies, which means that actually making a difference and being effective is really challenging because you have to understand each individual firm. That means that you're understanding the people, how they operate, what tools they're using, whether or not they have the same goals. They might be looking to, retire in the next 5 years. You might be a new CPA that's just now joining the industry. You might not even be a CPA. And that's fine. There's plenty of different ways to skin the proverbial cat, but it makes things really fun, but also really challenging at the same time. One question that we always get is, how can I close out my year? How can I finish this year strong so that next tax year doesn't suck? The short of it is, there's no real right answer here. There's plenty of things that you can do, but unless you make some substantial changes and really bite the bullet in a lot of different ways, tax year is always going to suck, but it doesn't have to. And that's what we're here to help you guys kind of understand and talk about a little bit today. So an organized way to close out your year, both internally and for your clients, that's the focus of our conversation today. We're going to talk about two pieces of that. One of them is going to be, how do we make more money? How do I charge my clients more without them hating me? Little side tip here, you can raise your prices and no one's going to leave. I'll just leave that for you now. That's one of the biggest things and biggest tips that we can offer you today, is go ahead and raise your prices. And if anyone does leave, you're going to make up for them with the time that you save by them leaving and all of your other clients who stayed on board. But we'll get into that a little bit more shortly. So as we prepare for 2024, there's a couple things that you can do to help set your firm up for success. There's a lot more than what we've listed out here, but these are some of the big ones that we find it to be really helpful to focus on. So we're going to talk about each one of these points and then kind of get into some of the tools, technology, and potential for automation that we have, that we've researched and that we've helped other firms implement, and we've really seen great value from. At the end of this, we have a checklist, a 10-point checklist for things that you should really think about by the time December 31st rolls around. We're just going to brief over that in this presentation, but if you guys are interested or if anyone wants more information, we have that whole checklist complete with action items and more detail that we're happy to disseminate to anyone. Just reach out to us and he'll be able to help you guys with that. So we're going to talk about how to roll out price increases for your clients, as well as improving those communications. and then some practical strategies for improving your internal processes as well as your client management. And then lastly, we're going to look at some technology that you can leverage to improve your firm profitability. And when we say improve profitability, what we're really talking about is how do you make your firm more effective and more efficient so that you can spend more time either hiring new clients or enjoying your life. The way that we look at it is we help people. One of the things that we help them do is double the amount of returns that they can do, that they can process during the tax season. That's something that we've helped other firms do. But whether you're looking to do that because you want to double your income by taking on twice as many clients or have the amount of time that you have to work, whichever your goal is, the ultimate benefits derive from the exact same process improvements. So that's to say that there's different ways to get there, but ultimately the same process improvements are probably going to be what's going to be useful for you. So let's quickly talk about a quick way to increase prices for your client base. There's a couple different things that you should be thinking about here. Both your engagement letters and your powers of attorney, those are things that you can automate with a lot of different tax management processes and tools. And in that, you can start to utilize ways to increase your costs, or your fees for your clients. Rolling out those increases across your client base means that you're going to be utilizing some of these tools and standardized engagement letters, standardized power of attorneys, things that are pre-built that you can easily manipulate and increase prices and increase your services without having to dot a bunch of I's and cross all of your T's. You also want to make sure to tag those clients who are unresponsive or who you extended this year. That should be really easy to do. Just go look at your client list and figure out who wasn't done by April 15th. Take that list, tag them in your practice management software, and then up their fees more next year. Or at least know that those are going to be your problem clients and get a good sense of how much extra work you're going to have to do to put into it. But at least start giving yourself some type of quantitative measure to say like, okay, well, at least I know that 40% of my clients were able to get all of their documents in before March 31st, for example. Start tagging those so that you can look at those clients and evaluate those in the off season. We recommend that you charge at least $350 a month for bookkeeping if that's what you're doing, and at least $500 per return. And these are on the minimum side. We've seen firms that charge a lot more than this, and oftentimes they had a hard time internalizing what that change looked like. How many of you think like, I don't want to charge my clients more? I already see how much money they have or don't have. I feel bad charging them more. I feel bad reaching out for things that they haven't paid me for, even though any other firm, any other industry would have no problem slapping an extension fee on there or some other tax, if you want to call it that, and calling it a day. For some reason, and I think it's because accountants are just really empathetic at their base. Analytic is another good term, but empathetic is, I think, a good way to describe most accountants. Even if they don't show it on the surface, a lot of them feel bad. They don't want to ask for money. You guys don't feel comfortable charging your clients more because you already are dealing with their money. We'll just say full stop. You're going to have to get out of that mindset. Start looking at these as baseline numbers, but consider going higher. We also recommend having a subscription-based service model. That's probably not news, but most firms don't do that. If you can transition your clients over to a subscription, you can start making that recurring revenue off of clients who maybe were troublesome or maybe were underpaying you. And we recommend a 3-tier service. So we like to say, kind of have a low, medium, high, and make sure that high is priced really high so that the medium doesn't look so, middle of the road. Segment your client base into those different subscription plans behind the scenes and offer that to them, but at least know that you should have clients, much like we said, you should tag your clients, have them segmented into either A, B, C, or low, medium, high effort, some way that allows you to see like, okay, I've got a lot of these clients that are taking my time. I should probably consider charging them more. And again, don't feel bad about it. Either they're going to pay you because you're providing a service that they need, and it's not a ripoff, right? We're not stealing money. We're providing a service that somebody needs. If that's not a right match for them, then, the economies are going to say that they're going to move away and go find somebody else who can provide that at a rate that they want. That's fine. That means that you have more free time. You've got more bandwidth to pick up other clients who are a better fit for you. If you haven't niched down into a specific sector, if you're not offering finite services services for a specific type of client, also consider that, because that allows you to charge more because you're an expert in that field. Lastly, Ignition has a really great tool for auto price increases. We really like this because it takes all of the legwork out of increasing those prices. You can just apply a blanket 10% increase across all of your clients whenever they renew their engagement letter every year, and you're good to go. Your clients don't feel the burden, and neither do you. One thing that we like to say about segmenting your client base is that not all clients are affected equally by price increases. So that's why we do like to segment them, because you can utilize either their size, how long they've been with you, whether you like them or not, and then tailor those increases accordingly. Some clients are just a pain in the ass, and there's no other way around it. Those clients should be charged for that. Otherwise, it's not worth your time. Again, Ignition has a great feature that can help you do that, either across the board or segmented per client. The second thing in our list here that we really like to focus on is improving client communications. The client communications in general, somebody cut me off. If there's any questions, sorry, I don't have both screens up, so if there's any questions that I need to be addressing, please let me know. But in terms of client communications, using Loom or other video features is super helpful. That's something that we've seen. Some of our firms have been able to decrease their client time by up to 40% by simply sending their tax return with a quick 30-second, 90-second Loom video, which you can embed via Ignition's embeddable videos feature into your reviews, so that me as your client, I can say, okay, here's my tax return, and here's my CPA giving me a detailed, specific, tailored walkthrough of this. I don't need to reach out to them. They've already given me all the information that I need. Unless I have a specific question, I can do that. But what we find is 9.5 times out of 10, most clients are really happy with, okay, here's my return. Here's some information directly from my CPA, so I feel heard. Let's go. I'm happy with this. I'm going to sign my 8879, and we're going to send it off. Tax season emails, an email campaign complete with diagrams can be really helpful as well. What this means is have a drip campaign, write 10 emails. That's something that we help clients with all the time. From December 15th to March 31st, give or take. Have 10 emails that go out over the course of this time to all of your clients and say, hey, here's our tax season. Here's what we need from you. Here's our deadlines. Another little benefit for your clients is you can say, okay, look, if you don't get all of your information to me by March 31st, March 17th, whatever that deadline is, there's going to be an extension fee. Everyone should be charging an extension fee if your clients don't get your stuff to you on time. Again, that's something that we see a lot of firms have a really hard time with, is to say, like, look, they didn't give me the information, but they've been working with me forever. I don't want to charge them for it. Stop. Black and white, line in the sand. If you don't have your information to me by X date, I've communicated this to you. I'm going to charge you a fee to extend. If they don't like it, okay. Once again, we're culling our client base so we can start bringing on new clients who do like us and who will listen to us and get us that information and that are willing to pay us a fee that's reasonable. So consider an email campaign, and we say with diagrams because people love pictures. Have a quick picture of 5 different dates, 4 dates, 6 dates, whatever those big dates are that you want people to have in their mind. One of those being the deadlines for submitting their organizer or getting you data. Have that time frame set in mind and put that in front of your clients starting about now, so that they understand what the requirements are for them. And then if they don't get it to you in time, when you charge them that extension fee, it's not a slap in the face. It's not out of left field. It's expected, and they knew it was coming. Time box when you're available to respond to client communication. What we mean by that is set an hour a day, 5 hours a week, whatever. Have a block of time where you're going to go through and respond to clients. Most CPAs, most accountants don't want to do that on one day throughout the week. So set up 30 minutes each day and just say, like, okay, I'm going to start my day by reviewing what I need to do and responding to client calls or client emails that they've reached out to me and I need to get back to them in a timely manner. But don't have an all day time frame. Don't see that one email come in. Let that sidebar you from whatever else you're working on. Spend 20 minutes replying to a client, or 2 minutes. But if it takes you out of that kind of mindset, and if you have to context switch, it's going to cost you more time. Have a time that's dedicated for clients and specifically responding to client communication, and only do it then. In line with that, this is one of our other favorite recommendations. Do not allow your clients to directly contact you. I know that sounds ridiculous, and most of you are probably saying, but I have all these clients that have my cell phone number. I understand that, but start training them, especially new clients, by saying, look, you can either reach my receptionist or you can reach my team member. We like to use a role called a CEC, so a client excellence communicator or coordinator, which is basically, for all intents and purposes, a receptionist, but they're going to be the ones that are that first kind of point of contact for your firm. Train your clients to know that this is the person they need to reach out to. They can schedule a time with you if needed, but most of the time they're going to be able to answer whatever those questions are anyways. But don't allow your clients, at least new clients, to be able to reach out to you directly with ad hoc phone calls. Make them schedule meetings. That doesn't mean that you have to say, no, I'm not going to talk to you. Instead, use something like Calendly, Google scheduling, Microsoft scheduling, whatever your calendar is. They all have scheduling tools now. You can send a link to all of your clients, or better yet, have a link either in your portal or on your website that says, if you want to schedule with me, here's how you do so. And they'll train them, allow them to get in contact with you. Don't make them feel like you're blocking them out, but let them have access to you at a scheduled time. Again, preventing context switching, allowing them to talk to you, but in a reasonable and controlled environment. Sending monthly newsletters, kind of going hand in hand with those email campaigns, is a good way to just keep people in the loop. This is more of a marketing tip. This is a way that you keep everyone engaged, make sure they know who you are, start upselling other services, but at least include a blog post and a social media post. You can hire somebody off Upwork to write these and do everything for you for $200 to $400 for a blog post and social media combined. Do that once a month. At least get some content out there that's going to help make you an authority in the field, going back to, again, being specialized. Especially if you're a specialized accountant or CPA within that realm, you can start writing content for that specifically. It doesn't have to be verbose. It doesn't have to be super detailed. It's just something that lets your clients know, like, hey, I'm here, things are fresh. I'm keeping up with everything. Here's what I've learned recently. Stay in touch, so on and so forth. That one's not super important, especially if you're not trying to grow, but I will say that it's the icing on the cake. As a client, clients love that, and it really does help build your demeanor with them overall. And then lastly, incorporate tax law changes into the preparation checklist and for your procedures. Just make sure you're staying up to date with everything, essentially. When we are back to the kind of overhead of client communications as a whole, one reason that we like this is it gets in front of those questions that clients have. The more questions that we can answer ahead of time, the fewer calls you're going to get, the fewer of those ad hoc meetings that you're going to have to respond to. So consider a year-end email that highlights everything that you've talked about, or every change and things that your client should be responsible for or knowledgeable about. Use an automated communication system. If you're using a tax or practice management tool that has automated communication, which most of them do now, use that. Otherwise, there's tools like ActiveCampaign or other marketing tools that you can use to blast everyone with an email or a drip email. Again, 10 emails from January to December to March. Use a tool that's going to help alleviate your need to type out individual emails. You shouldn't ever do any work in your email. In fact, if you're spending more than 30 minutes or an hour a day in emails, you seriously need to consider how you can improve your process, because there are some low-hanging fruit that will allow you to save hours a week. Lastly, schedule tax season emails and document requests ahead of time. Set those up now so that you know when those are going out, and you can start collecting that information sooner rather than later on a schedule with reminders. So if you don't get information, follow up with those clients, but use automation to follow up with them. So in terms of improving your processes and your client management, there's a couple different things that we really like to focus on. Firstly, identifying clients who benefit from early bird tax planning is a great way to upsell your services, but also bring in extra revenue. If you're doing early bird tax planning, and that's a great thing that as clients love that. If I'm a client, my CPA says, hey, let me help you save money all year long. We're going to start right now. Maybe you schedule quarterly tax planning sessions with them. These are ways that you can help bill your clients but you're billing them by saving them money in the long run. If you frame it like that, clients absolutely love that. Also, use swim lanes to document workflows. We're going to come back to swim lanes here in a second because this is something at Genwise that we use extensively. Every single client that we work with, and by client, I'm referring to CPAs, everyone in the accounting world that we work with, we make them go through a swim lane process. We use swim lanes to document specific processes, and it allows you to look at an entire process from start to finish and understand who are the actors for each task. So who's in charge of everything within your firm, whether that's your preparer, your reviewer, your CEC, the CPA, who's doing what, but more importantly, what precedes that, what follows that, and what's required to complete that task. If you bring on a new a new employee, and you say, hey, here's our swim lane for the tax prep process. You're a CEC. You sit right here. Now I, as the CEC, can say, okay, cool. Now I know exactly what I need to be ready for, and I know exactly what happens after I finish my job, and I know what my requirements are. If I ever forget that, I can go back and review it. If I'm a new hire, it's easy to onboard me. Swim lanes make life so much easier, but everyone hates doing it because it's a pain in the ass. You don't want to write down what's already up in here. No firm that we've ever worked with has ever written down any of their processes. Full stop. And it sounds ridiculous, but look at yourself. How many of your processes do you have written down? If you hired somebody new, would you be able to put them to work without spending a whole bunch of time onboarding them and explaining what their role is and where they need to fit into their individual workflow, what they're responsible for? You might say, yeah, kind of, but I guarantee you that you're not saying 100%, here's my swim lane, here's my flow, my process map. We're going to come back to this because this is really important, and we'll speak to it a little bit more. So keep swim lanes at the top of your minds, but think about how you can use something like that to document your workflows to make your onboarding and changing and reviewing of processes much easier in the future. And then use those swim lanes to build workflow templates that are improved. So use those to look at your initial process now and then analyze where you can improve that and how you can add automation. I mentioned that Genwise forces all of our clients to go through this process because it is by far the best way to say, okay, this is where you are now, but here's a pain point, and here's a really big pain point. Also, here's a client communication, and here's a client communication. We can automate all these things. We can help improve all these things. Each one of these is 10, 15, 2 minutes for someone in your staff. Get rid of all of those time sucks and spend less time on that and more time letting the automations take control of everything so that you don't have to worry about those things. Build those workflow templates with automations and automated requests so that you don't have to be the person, or your team doesn't have to be a person that's doing that. That means that they've got more time to do all of the other things that they need to do, which means you can hire more clients. Institute daily stand-ups during tax season. This one's a big one. This one comes from agile methodology in terms of software development. So if you're not familiar with a stand-up is simply that. It's a meeting that takes place standing up. The idea is that it's fewer than 5 minutes. In Genwise, we try to keep ours to fewer than 2 minutes. It's literally just a quick touch base. Everyone's in the same place at the same time. It helps with camaraderie. Everyone, again, sees each other. The 2 questions we ask are, what are you working on today? And are you blocked on anything? Usually the answer is my basic stuff and no, I'm not. Okay, everyone's good, sweet, have a great day. If someone's blocked on something, that's the opportunity to address that now. It gives you an opportunity every day to unblock people and start moving that process forward. But again, it syncs everyone up. Do not let these become long haul meetings. 5 minutes max. Try and keep it at 2, but it's just a touch base for everyone so you're all on the same page. Lastly, use smart tax organizers. There's a couple different tools out there for smart tax organizers. One of our favorites is a company called Sorban. They've got some really cool tools and tech for collecting client data out there that we'll be happy to talk about if you guys have any specific questions on tax organizers. But specifically, smart organizers help you and force you build a standardized process. So all clients or all segments of clients go through the same process. It allows you to automatically integrate with different tools. There's a lot of different tools out there. Again, I just mentioned Sorban. They integrate with everyone out there, because they have an open API, we as a tech company can help come in and connect different things. So we can connect your tax software with your organizer. We can connect your organizers with your, your SharePoints, your OneDrives, whatever, wherever you're storing data, even if it's Google Drive or Dropbox. All of these things can be connected. So as soon as that information comes in from your client, it automatically gets shot through to where you need it to be. OCR, so screen recognition, is a new tool that's becoming really popular. What that says is, hey, I just uploaded my 1099 or whatever tax document. A smart tax organizer is going to automatically recognize that. So you can see bullet point 4 here, data recognition. It's automatically going to recognize that, and it's going to populate that into your tax software. I mean, we're talking about saving hours a day working on client work, because no longer does someone have to type in that information. Now that information is automatically standardized and moved over in a way that's way more effective and way more useful for your clients. For your team. It's helpful for your clients too, because it means that you have fewer errors, which is, as everyone knows, a big issue. Because if you allow for the tools to just move in, capture that information, they've got a 99.9% accuracy rate. They're not going to fat finger something. They're not going to typo that. They're going to move that information to where it needs to be, and your team can focus on synthesizing it, utilizing it, making it useful rather than having to type it into something. The smart tax organizers can be built for clients. So if you segment it specifically for your client or for your group of clients, that can be then tailored to them and then reused in the future. The last thing, and I forgot this bullet point, and I'm kicking myself now, is a lot of these smart tax organizers allow you to save it and pull in that information from last year, so that your clients don't feel like, I'm doing TurboTax. Why did I hire you if I have to enter all this information into something when I could just go to TurboTax and have it do it for me? We all know that the answer is because I'm going to do a lot better job than TurboTax. I'm going to save you more money. Also, don't ask me those stupid questions. But that clients don't see things that way. What a smart organizer does is it's going to allow you to pull that information in from last year, pre-populate that. So me as your client, I can say, oh yeah, they already know all this stuff about me. I just got to enter this new stuff. And by enter this new stuff, I'm really just dropping in these documents that I was sent, and you're going to take care of everything. It's a super white glove process. It makes me feel, as your client, like you're handling all my information. You already know everything about me. I'm just giving you the stuff that you need, not I have to enter all this information in and I'm doing your job for you. Lastly, frictionless access. A lot of these organizers can be operated or accessed with magic links. You don't need a dedicated portal. You don't need to have somebody sign into something totally different. You send them a specific link in your email or in their email. They click on that link, automatic entrance. They can upload their information and go about your day. Everyone's a lot happier. The last point here that we're going to talk about, and again, I know this is a fire hose. This will be recorded and sent back out. So if you guys have specific questions, you guys can always reach back out to us and we can dive into something more, into anything in more depth. But just trying to kind of fly through this a little bit on the last topic here, leveraging technology to improve your profitability. So kind of circling back around to where we started here. The first thing you need to do is evaluate your technology. Okay, that seems obvious, but it's something that not very many, no one honestly does to the proper degree. Everyone knows that there's things that you can improve with your technology, but how do you do that, right? Like, how do you actually sit down and analytically evaluate what can be improved and what can't? This is where Genwise was born, because everyone in the industry said, I know there's better tools out there. I know there's better ways to do it, but I don't have time to go research everything. I don't have time to figure out what makes the most sense. And most importantly, I don't want to make the wrong call. I don't want to institute a tool that my team's not going to use. I don't want to have to train them on something when I don't know how to use it. I'm scared to make a change because we just changed technology a couple of years ago and my team hated it. Well, that sucks. And there's unfortunately no way around that. But the first thing that you can do to improve your systems and improve your processes is just take a look now at what you've got, the technologies you've got now, and figure out where those pain points are. Just start jotting it down. You can see the last bullet point here is a wish list for improvements and change requests. this is one of our biggest recommendations. You're likely not going to make many changes now as tax season looms. We understand that, although we have worked with firms who have started implementing new changes now. So they just go ahead, rip the Band-Aid off, get a new rep in with this tax season. It's going to be painful, but it's going to pay dividends in the future. In lieu of doing that, at least keep a notebook or a Word doc or a Google Doc or what have you somewhere. You got a chalkboard, great, write it down. Keep a list somewhere of the things in the moment that are pissing you off. So during tax season, if something really sucks or if there's a process issue that you really hate, write it down. Again, this seems pretty naive, but nobody does it, and I guarantee you that you're not going to remember everything that you hated in 3 months when you're done with tax season and ready to bury your head in the sand. Most CPAs after April 15th just say see you later and go either on vacation or hang out with the family, do whatever that is for a couple of weeks, decompress because they've been working 60 to 80 hours a week for the past 9 weeks. Sound familiar? It doesn't have to be like that, first of all. But if it is going to be like that this year, at least use this as an opportunity to improve things for next year. So during this tax season, have a notebook, write down everything that's annoying. And I'm talking about the little things. My software didn't allow me to do this. My employee did that and it cost us all this time. These clients never got back to me on this. Just keep a list of all that, a running list, and then that gives us a good starting point come April 15th, come summertime, when we're ready to start making changes and we've taken a deep breath, we've decompressed, we've pulled our head out of the sand, and we say, okay, how can I improve things? Because everyone in this call, sorry, let me take that back. 98% of the people in this call are going to be notorious for saying, look, this sucks. I'm just going to get through tax season and I'm going to take a vacation, and then you're going to forget about how bad it was. You're not really going to forget, but you're going to tell yourself that you're going to forget, and you're going to come back to things in a couple months and say like, okay, well, how can we do better next year? Start thinking about whether or not you want to make changes. All of a sudden it's going to be December 2024 and you're like, crap, like it's rinse and repeat. Tax season around the corner. We haven't made changes. I was afraid to change my technology. I'm not sure what to do. I don't know how to even evaluate it. Where do I go from here? So keep a wish list of those things moving forward. Again, ask your team for their candid thoughts. Document all of those things moving forward. Think about things in a logical, reasonable way, but just keep track of it so you can go back and look at it with a clean head later. So with that, again, I know that was a lot. We're happy to talk about everything overall. I'm sorry if there are any questions that I wasn't able to answer just yet, but we have a Q&A section here at the end so we can get back to that. But right now, I'm going to hand this over to Alec to talk about some of the specifics of the technology that we work with and why we like some of those things. So over to you, Alec.
Awesome. Thank you, Zach. And with the tech side, we're going to start getting in the fun part. We're going to showcase some of the technologies that we worked with some other clients, and also an example of the sales automation and client onboarding automation. Zach, can you switch over to the next slide for me? Thank you. So the first one is the practice management side. Carbon and Canopy is the top 2 practice management softwares that we've seen in the market and are 2 highest recommended. Carbon definitely has a better integration with Ignition to help you streamline that sales side and also kind of year-end price increases and stuff and sending out the engagement letters. Canopy is more kind of doing that all-in-one approach, kind of similar to what TaxStone kind of does. But I would definitely pick Canopy over TaxStone because both of these softwares have an open API. Carbon has a lot more endpoints that's accessible, sending different data of like updating a status or adding a task or adding a folder. So there's a lot more capabilities on the Carbon side, say if you're trying to automate more of your workflow. Canopy does have some of that, but Carbon has more. The next one is tax prep software. Sorban and SurePrep are the 2 biggest ones that we see in the market. Sorban will work on Drake, ProConnect, Lacert, and UltraTax. So say once that data is populated within your organizer and approved by you, you can have that information be auto data entered into your tax softwares that's capable. SurePrep, most of y'all probably heard of SurePrep. SurePrep did get acquired by Thomson Reuters for $500 million. They have integrations with CCH Access, Ghost Systems, Lacert, and UltraTax CS. So Sorbent basically just doesn't have CCH access integration yet, but it's on the roadmap. With these two softwares, just depending on how your firm's running and also the capabilities within your team, there's just two good choices of software that you can pick from, and we can help you fine tune that. The next one is bookkeeping. Keeper, we see a lot of accounting, especially within last year, going heavily into Keeper. And Keeper is really kind of like a tech and AI approach. BotKeeper has, it's another competitor that's been around the market for at least 7 years now. But they have both a tech, AI, and team approach. So Keeper is good for accounting firms that already have the staff to facilitate the volume. BotKeeper could be better for keeping to keep up.
Alec, we lost you for
definitely they have different price points. Especially if you're looking at offshore talent, they both have different. But BotKeeper is a better choice. Getting those business returns done. Tally4 is a very great software. It's awesome how you can integrate both into QuickBooks, Xero to get that trial balance into Tally4. They have these worklist papers that you and your team collaborate on to get that to what it needs to be. And then you can export that data from Tally4 and then import it into like CCA's Access, UltraTax CS, ProConnect, and a few other softwares or tax softwares as well. And Zach, can you switch to next? Next one is K1 processing. Additive is very new. They're about 5 months old. The COO or the CEO has had 2 successful exits. His CTO used to do Department of Defense tech work. So with this company, it's very interesting. They're based out in SF. With their process, you literally just upload bulk PDFs of your K1s, and then it can analyze those K1s and put it into Excel. So it's easier for you to process these K1s. So Additive is a really good software to help streamline those pesky K1s that block most of y'all's tax prep process. Sales tax, Avalara Tax and TaxJar are the 2 top sales tax automation softwares that we see in the market. Both of them do have good integrations and costs are fairly similar. Definitely depends on you as a firm and how your team operates and your client base of which one you should get into. Tax planning software, I know there is a lot out there. We definitely highlight the Intuit Tax Advisor heavily because the Intuit ecosystem is becoming super strong, especially how QuickBooks, ProConnect can integrate into that tax software to help you get that data and surface those plans quicker for your clients instead of manually putting them together in Excel or using Corby, which I have never seen one firm actually use it right. You're paying like 10 to 20 grand a year. I have not seen one firm actually utilize it right. So Intuit Tax Advisor kind of makes it a click of a button to facilitate the tax planning. HolistaPlan is also kind of similar. HolistaPlan price point is definitely cheaper. It's another good alternative, especially if you're not within the Intuit ecosystem. But definitely Intuit ecosystem, keep them on your radar. They're only getting stronger. You do not see Thomson Reuters or Wolters Kluwer being able to compete with Intuit unless they're going to totally refactor the whole code base to make those changes. So those behemoths will still be behemoths for a while, but I would put my money more into it. Next is Gen AI. ChatGPT or Bard is the top 2. ChatGPT, you've probably been seeing stuff within your M365 account. Say if your firm is on Microsoft, they're trying to implement Copilot, which kind of came from OpenAI. So I would definitely look more into how y'all can incorporate more Gen AI into your workflows, from writing emails to just collaborating on some different scenarios on tax. You can be quite surprised what that thing kind of finds for you. Both ChatGPT and Bard can surf the web as well. For Bard, I used it heavily for my Black Friday deals. I was like, hey, I'm looking for fridges. What's the top 3 fridges at this price point and these brands? And it populated that with links. So these AIs are getting better and better, and I only see firms using these more and more. So definitely just give them a try. I think both are free if you're on, both are free that you can try them out. So if you haven't tried it out, just take some time this week to test it out. Next is the sales automation piece. What's crazy is most firms are usually running and gunning. From the sales side, collecting that information from that conversation, you can either put it in your CRM, which it kind of gets lost in a note. And so we've incorporated forms that kind of walk through that sales process within the form that you can put in like how many team members they have, what kind of services is this a client going to consume, what kind of entities, what is the deposit they should be paying, what manager should be assigned to this client. So you can have this within either Google Forms or Microsoft Forms or Typeform. I mean, if you are on M365, Microsoft Forms is free. If you're on Google Forms is free. But being able to collect this data in a unique way, and especially being able to collect it without kind of being too intrusive in that conversation and kind of being in that and kind of framing it through your kind of sales process within that form is really good. Once that form is filled out, you can then create automations to notify your admin person to finalize that proposal or engagement letter or invoice with Ignition. Ignition does have some cool automations and different services that you can set up. And within those services that you have set up, it can also automatically integrate into QuickBooks. So you get a nice little integration between your services and how those are being consumed through your client base. Last but not least is scheduling that onboarding. Quit doing random phone calls or text or emails. Definitely you have emails that it's incorporated through the process of educating through your onboarding, collecting that information. But just mentioning what Zach mentioned earlier, it's like quit taking those one-off calls or one-off emails and really just try to push your client base into scheduling book times with y'all. And of course, time box the time that you spend with them answering emails and all that good stuff. And Zach, can you go to the next one? One of the last ones is onboarding automation. Onboarding definitely plagues a lot of firms because there's like a general onboarding that most of the clients can flow through, and then there's onboarding with your payroll services or tax or other or bookkeeping or CFO. So with onboarding, we definitely recommend to kind of create more towards the general onboarding side, and then we can create workflow templates that can help facilitate the onboarding with client requests and automated emails. But the forms also really do help as well to collect that general information so that can be populated within your practice management software automatically instead of you manually putting it in. Again, the practice management softwares we highly recommend is Carbon and Canopy, two best on the market. Can't go wrong with either or. And then also having that data be auto integrated into your accounting software, either QBO or Xero, and then creating that folder structure within Dropbox, Google Drive, SharePoint, ShareFile, whatever have you. Just make sure that your document management is on the cloud and accessible to, with APIs that you can send data to either within the document management or out. Usually, especially with Dropbox, Google Drive, SharePoint, ShareFile, they are all pretty secure. And some firms are like, well, I don't know if I want to have all my stuff on the cloud. You technically should, but you can still do a backup towards your server if you so wish, just to make sure you can sleep good at night. And Zach, can you go to the next slide? With Ignition, it is quite awesome what they've been able to pull off, even within the last 6 months. We have other softwares that we also recommend that's similar to Ignition, but Ignition's updates, especially how you can roll out price increases through your client base. You can charge for one-off services. So we really recommend a 3-tier subscription model that can kind of capture like that happy path. Like 70% of clients could consume that, but there's also always you should have your return because that business partner return now, or they got some other family members that needs an individual return being done, or they want you to do bill pay. So and creating right expectations with your client to get is crucial. I have been seeing and continue to see Ignition has been streamlining the proposal and engagement letter process, and also the year-end side when you get those engagement letters, and also those price increases. Next slide. Swim lanes. Zach referred to this earlier. Swim lanes, we absolutely love them. Y'all probably have already seen a process map before that kind of goes from A to Z. Well, with the swim lane, it breaks it down into roles based. And we didn't make up swim lanes. It's been around since the 60s. We just happened to come across it when building up startups. And we've also brought some of that startup knowledge and helping out firms kind of scale their operations and modernize. But what's cool with swim lanes is usually the team, like accounting firms we go into and ones that we even see, like y'all are just running and gunning and throwing people into this process. And so with swim lanes, it's a great exercise to get your team on the same page, how a process should be conducted. So from every point of the role actually knows what happens from point A to point Z, and they can see how that process flows. Even the emails and automated triggers you can identify within the swim lanes. And once the swim lane is done, you can create workflow templates in your practice management software or project management software as well. And also becomes a really good onboarding tool for net new hires. So like, hey, you're coming on as a bookkeeper. You're going to be incorporated within the monthly bookkeeping that we do. This is the areas within the process that you'll be involved in, and here's your client list that you'll be working with. So with swim lanes, I cannot recommend it more. If you don't do anything in this, just do swim lanes to properly document out your processes, to set better expectations with your team, and also providing consistent services towards your clients. And we also have a free template that y'all can use to map out your processes via swim lane. And you can reach out to us at hello@genwise.com. And we use an application called Miro, which is basically a digital whiteboard on steroids, and it's highly collaborative, just like a Google Doc would be. And then we have an end-of-year checklist that we'll be sending out to y'all. You'll kind of see our top 4 that Zach has went over. And then Zach, if you can switch over to the next one. We added in, I believe, 6 more onto the checklist. And again, this checklist will be sent out to y'all after this meeting. Awesome. And now we're going to transition to Q&A before we hand it over to Guy.
All right. Thanks so much, Alec and Zach. That was wonderful. I've learned way more than I expected to, and I'm not an accountant or a bookkeeper. That was wonderful.
Love it.
So there's been some great questions.
Well, thanks for having us.
Yeah, you're welcome, both in the chat and in the Q&A. So I think I just see Zach answering. Do you maybe want to expand on that, Zach? Because I think there are a couple Canadian attendees on here.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of the Canadian firms recently that have a lot of the questions that the U.S. firms do. The short answer there, Dorothy, is it depends on what you need. So a lot of the tech that we did talk about today, stuff like scheduling and some of those kind of overarching tech, absolutely is useful or can be used, wherever you are in the world. When it comes to some of the specifics, like the carbon canopies, those tax management, Sorban we mentioned earlier, those things are U.S. specific right now. But each tool has, is at least looking at a branch outside of the U.S. So we work really closely with Sorban. They're an up and coming tool that just launched from Y Combinator a year and a half ago. And so, we work with their executive team. And one of the things that they've heard a lot is, hey, there's a bunch of Canadian firms that are interested in these tools. They're looking at that. That's definitely something that they're looking at branching out into. But unfortunately, I can't answer your question any more detailed than that unless you have a specific use case. But feel free to reach out to us and we can talk more. Alec, did you want to add anything?
Zach, adding one last. Yeah, I think most of this tech that we did show, they can use. Not the K1 processing. Canada does not have that. But with Sorban, they technically can use it, but the data entry into their tax software is not available on like TaxCycle or ProTax, like the tax softwares that are within Canada. But most of these technology providers that we're looking into, they are all looking into Canada as we speak. But some of these softwares are available, but some are limited in Canada at this moment. And Zach, I know if you can share the second slide of this, I think.
And I'm just actually going to throw all of those in the chat too. Unfortunately, it doesn't format it very well, but I'll put the checklist in the chat. Also, this checklist is abbreviated, so we have a version that's got more information and specific action items for each point. So if you want more information on this checklist, please reach out to us and we can get you a little bit more detail. But I am posting 1 through 10 in the chat right now. Again, just not very
Awesome.
well
And then,
formatted.
and Zach, while you're doing that, there's two questions that I see in Q&A that I can quickly answer. Dominique, I put a direct link within your question of Additive's website. It's additive.ai, but this is only available in the US. There's another question that I saw on do smart tax organizers work within ProConnect Intuit Link. We do have experience in Intuit Link. It is kind of limited. Yes, you can collect some of that information within Intuit Link and have it within ProConnect, but there is some limitations. We've had a bigger firm that was using Ignition Intuit Link, but minimal success, and they incorporated Sorban, and it really helped their firm a lot better to get more ingrained, granular tax organizers to those simple and those complex individuals and some of those entities that could be complex as well. I think I saw one more. What is your opinion on using Dropbox document?
Oh yeah, go ahead, Alec.
What is your opinion on using Dropbox document requests? I mean, that's awesome. You can use that. I'm not sure what size of a firm you are, but ideally, if you're for sure over 5, you should be within a practice management software to help kind of manage it, the workflows and billings and all that good stuff. So if you're a smaller firm, using Dropbox document request is fine. It kind of reminds me what ShareFile has with their requests and safely sending files and stuff. I think that's about all the questions.
There was one other
don't have any more.
Just got buried about do smart tax organizers work with ProConnect Intuit Link? I just want to make sure. Did you cover that one already?
That's what I referred to earlier. Yeah, perfect. Yeah. Intuit Link is is limited, but it does have some of those capabilities to collect some information, get in ProConnect. But Sorban would provide a more succinct tax organizer.
Got it.
I think there was one follow-up question on the swim lane. So I just dropped the link to request a swim lane from our website. Again, we use a tool called Miro, M-I-R-O. It's awesome. We love it. We'll duplicate our version and send that out to anybody that requests that. So you can just fill out that form at genwise.com/swimlane. And I think there's another question about the deck itself. Annie, can you answer that? I know this is going to be circulated with everybody, but will that include the deck also?
Yep. So we'll send out a copy of the recording, the slide deck, and then we'll make sure we highlight the checklist that's within the slide deck as well. And we'll get the contact details for Genwise shared with everybody too. So everyone can get in touch with you after.
Awesome. I do have one more thing to add before we hand it over to Guy. So with y'all, we're not saying make changes now before tax season. If you do have the capabilities and the bandwidth to do so, and you think it's a good to make those changes, we're more than happy to discuss that with you. But say if you're wanting to wait till next tax season, I mean, test and make a plan during extension season. There could be some different software, some Ignition to different tax prep automations that are changing your practice management. You can test some of that in extension season with some of your client base or internally with your team members. Like, just don't be chilling on extension. So use extension time to test softwares, to formulate a plan. Whenever you're done with the extension season, like mid-October, you have the rest of that year to fully implement that plan and not waiting towards that at the end of October, like, oh, what softwares am I going to implement? Like, you're kind of already behind the curve, especially if you have more than 5 people within your firm. So just wanted to give y'all that heads up. Just keep open-minded with the extension season. I know you're exhausted. Take some of that time off, come back recharged, and be open-minded of what kind of different softwares or process changes you want to make before rolling in towards year-end.
Amazing. Well, it seems like the discussion in the chat could go on forever, but I know we're at time, and like we said, we'll make sure that everyone knows how to get in touch with your team at Genwise. But Alec and Zach, thank you so much for taking the time out of your very busy schedules to join us. The amount of knowledge shared has just been absolutely incredible. So thank you very much. And we'll say goodbye to our friends at Genwise now, and we're going to hand it over to Guy. So he's one of our Ignition product experts. and he will do a short demo of Ignition. We've kind of mentioned it throughout the presentation, but now he'll actually get into the product and show you how you can use Ignition to totally transform your tax season, and not even just in tax season, but all year round. So I will make sure that Guy has the ability to share his screen now and hand it over to him. Thank you.
Thanks for having us, Annie. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Perfect. Thanks for the intro, Annie, and thank you to Zach and Alec for the great presentation. Calling in from Austin, Texas. Really excited to show y'all how we're going to be able to use Ignition to apply everything we learned from our wonderful panelists today into our own businesses. Proposal would look like from your client side. So this first page is all about giving that professional looking system, really kind of setting yourself apart from other competitors in your area. This first page can be completely customized with your branding, your logo, your preferred color scheme, everything about that. Like Zach and Alec were mentioning in the webinar, we can use this video feature for a multitude of reasons, whether it's walking people through their individual services, or if we're just trying to, explain the value behind other additional services that we offer and therefore increase our revenue stream very naturally. Again, no shortage of what we can do with that video. Same thing goes for this opening paragraph. We can template this to be whatever kind of welcoming message we want for our clients, really standardize the messaging across the board. That flows nicely into the second step, which is all about the brochure. From my experience, a lot of the firms that I work with do a great job at telling their firm's story via their website and really breaking down what their services are and who they are as a firm. However, they don't really have too many of these brochures or collateral like this. One of the big benefits of Ignition is that regardless of where you sign up with us, we would create one of these brochures for you for free so you can start standardizing those into your proposals or even using them externally for additional marketing efforts. That flows nicely into the real meat and potatoes of Ignition, which is the options. So the template that we're looking at today is actually designed and available to you all by Dawn Brolin. Some of you may be familiar with her. If you're not, I highly recommend looking into her. She's a very respected thought leader within the accounting space. So this is all about her relationship tiered pricing template. It covers everything from tax and basic accounting services all the way up to virtual CFO. One thing I did want to be clear about, though, is we have templates for everything down to specific individual services, and we don't always have to give people 3 options. If you're the kind of firm that does business with just what was discussed in that initial meeting, we can have it present that way as well. For this example, we'll use the recommended package, which you have the ability to customize, of Dawn's CFO Foresight package. That takes us into the services page. Really, the goal here is to lay out the scope of work in a very clear, very easy to follow manner to hopefully avoid any conversations around scope creep in the future with any of our clients. This can be completely customized any way we need it to be laid out. So if we did want to use Dawn's template and maybe we wanted to adjust a few things, you guys can do that and it'll save exactly the way you left it for the next time. Once we're clear on the scope of work, we double down on that same principle when it comes to pricing. We want our people to know exactly how much they're paying, how often, when does that start, when does it end, and of course, what comes with it. Once that's all clear to a client, we are actually going to move to where the magic happens, which is step 6 around payments. So depending on how you prefer to do business, whether you want to collect up front or you wanted to collect after the work, at the very least here at Ignition, we recommend getting your payment details. So when it is time to collect, it's not going to be a disjointed process where it's left in their hands. So they can click on here. We can collect any kind of credit card, debit card, or bank account information. Does not matter which one you prefer. If you only prefer to take one or the other, we can have it show as that option as well. Once we understand how we're getting paid, then we can actually move on and sign the engagement letter. So this engagement letter is an industry standard terms and agreement that is designed by our team of CPAs and lawyers internally. It's updated every year as well, so definitely safe for you to use out of the box if you don't already have a letter. However, if you prefer yours, it's a very easy import process. And what our team's going to support you through is making sure it's dynamic. What I mean by that is All of these individual variable fields, names, business addresses, dates, all the things that we love editing one by one are actually going to be pulled over automatically in the very beginning. As soon as we select our client in the beginning, all of this stuff is filled out, so we don't have to go back through and edit it each time. Here we can collect the consent for the e-signature and the e-signature itself. Once your client accepts, you would be notified immediately, and it'll take them to this last page. A lot like that first page, if we wanted to, we can use a video here to explain next steps, or we can keep it simple like what I have on the screen, which is like a makeshift onboarding checklist. All this page is about is helping you kick off that next phase of the workflow. So we can insert any kind of links that we need to here, whether that's a calendar link for them to book a call with you, maybe it's that client portal that you need them to get signed up on, or a share file to start collecting those tax documents. It doesn't matter what it is. It's really completely in your hands how we customize this. Now that we've covered the client's point of view, let's go over how we got there in a really quick and efficient manner. So here we're looking at the clients tab. No matter what software you're on, it's a very easy import process to get them into Ignition. And thinking back to some of the content that Zach and Alec went over in the webinar around segmenting our clients, right? Let's go over how we're going to be able to engage or re-engage everybody in a certain segment all at once, taking a multi-day or multi-week long process down to just a few minutes. So as they mentioned, if you're segmenting your client base down to certain tags, that's something our team can help you reflect within Ignition as well. So an example I'm using here today is let's think about re-engaging all of our 1040s before next year. So we have 1040 tagged on all of our clients that we do that for. We just pulled them all up. So this could be 3, it could be 300. It doesn't matter what the number is. We can select them all and we can create that proposal in bulk. So we can have your customized proposals saved however you want, but we also have a host of ones that are pre-built for you. In this case, we'll go ahead and just use the individual tax return template. As you can see, it comes laid out with a scope of work prepared for you, recommended pricing and billing schedule, as well as the engagement letter standard to it. And if we wanted to get a little bit fancy here, let's say maybe your firm has a goal of being a little bit more profitable this year, and you offer things beyond tax returns, and maybe you do some planning or advisory work, that's where we can use options like this, the 3 options, where they can select the straight up tax return that you talked about, or they can start looking into some of those advisory options as well. And these are things that we can explain in that video and very naturally have themselves upsell themselves on. So for this example, we'll just use the straight up return. As you can see, you can choose when we want this to take effect. For this example, we'll say on acceptance. And just like that, I've just created all of the engagements for my 1040s. Once those are done, you can actually see it in a draft stage, give you a chance to review and make sure everything looks right. Once we're in the proposal itself, we can actually look at the price. Did want to be clear that while we are using a fixed price here, Ignition can support no matter how you're billing, whether we're doing a range, a minimum price, a unit price, whether that's hours, days, however we choose. And we can also customize how we want to bill these folks. So whether it's a one-off, recurring, for some of these one-offs, if some people like to take deposits, that's an option, especially moving into next year and making sure we secure that cash flow. And really, once all of that's up to your liking, all that's left is choosing how do we want to be paid on this. Do we want to accept credit cards and ACH? If we do, we can turn one off. But regardless, we recommend making sure you get those details up front. Based on the schedule that we set here as well, I want to be clear that Ignition is actually also handling all of your invoicing and reconciliations in your Cloud Ledger, whether that's Xero or QuickBooks Online. So just another thing that you don't have to worry about once a proposal goes through Ignition. After we've selected how we want to be paid, we would select our engagement letter. We have this one right out of the box. The last step here is really just making sure everything looks nice. As far as the opening message goes, we can have that templated. Same thing with adding our video or brochure, as well as the next steps. We can template that out. And from there, we are good to send it out. And just like that, we have re-engaged all of our new clients in just a few minutes. And that same process applies for renewals as well. If we ever wanted to get a look out ahead as to, who is going to be expiring soon, we can actually do that very quickly here. We can look out as far as we want. We can go and just select all of those people that we're supposed to renew next year in bulk, hit renew, and it'll be the same process. And in that process, we can actually also apply any kind of price increases as well. So those would show up in the draft phase, just like before. We would get to review and edit. Once we get to the services, if we know that we are going to be raising our prices this year, we can just select by what percentage and then round it to the nearest decimal of our choosing. So as a recap, in just a few minutes, we have just figured out how to knock out work for entire batches of our customer segment all at once. And in that process, also make sure that we're securing our payment collections and invoicing for next year all in one place really quickly. Other than that, I would say that this is one of the very few scenarios that Ignition is able to make the end of year less taxing. So if you do want to learn a little bit more about how we specifically fit into your business, highly recommend responding to the polls in the chat. Thanks again for everyone sticking around for this, and I appreciate it. Have a great rest of the day.
Fantastic. Thank you, Guy. I know we've gone over time, so we don't want to keep anyone, but thank you all for taking the time to join us on this webinar. And thank you for the wonderful demo of Ignition. Like he said, please make sure you answer the poll if you want to start a free trial and you want to test it out yourself, or if you'd like someone to get in touch with you to go through it more in depth and see how it can fit into your practice. But we really appreciate everyone's time, and we wish you all the best in the very busy season ahead. But we hope you can find some ways to, as Guy said, to make it less taxing. And yes, we will share the recording, we'll share the demo, we'll share the slides, all the resources you might need. And if not, please get in touch with us or the team at Genwise. All right. Well, thank you very much, everyone, and have a great rest of your day.